In today's episode of Bridging Divides, I'm going to walk you through a framework of us and them as a way to bridge those divides in corporations and cultures in general. So again, as a refresher, there are several disconnects and bridges we have to cross across racial divides, power differential, political mergers and acquisitions create changes in culture and one over the other. And pedigree, by pedigree, I mean, hey, are you a Harvard graduate or, certain credentials you bring? So all of that factors in to how we create conscious or unconscious divides in company cultures. Loretta Ross's TED Talk is phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend watching all of it. Here are the key points she makes: that we live in a calling out culture, especially in diversity, equity, and inclusion space, and instead she invites us to a calling in culture. I'll walk you through my framework for that in just a moment. The other key point she makes is we need radical forgiveness, and that only comes when we really truly listen rather than operating from our own agenda. So the framework I'm proposing is on two axes. On the x-axis is taking action, of course, and on the y-axis is respect, because a lot of distrust and breaks in relationships happen due to lack of respect on one or more sides. So let's take each of these one at a time. First, on the bottom left, when there's low action and low respect, this is often shows up as turning a blind eye to topics of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, to denying there's a problem, and being selective in what you listen to when your own agenda is always present and running, even if you don't admit it. Next, on the top left, is you have high respect but very little action. This usually is quite prevalent and is the checking the box activities around DE and I and B. Perhaps you've created employee resource groups, but really the C-suite's not that engaged and is not really putting themselves out on the agenda of true change. The third group is high action. You jump right in and say, yep, we got to do something about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but lack of respect. And so it may be a quick jump to my way or the highway. Let's just go. Let's optimize for action without recognizing the impact that you may be having. So it's great to be quick to action, and sometimes it really takes more discernment to consider what the impact may be. And finally, the fourth quadrant, which is high respect and high action, can result in a better culture when you really co-create that change by basing it on insights from all stakeholders with quantitative and qualitative data, being realistic about your DE and I and B maturity roadmap, knowing what that looks like first, and being very honest about where you are as an organization and as an executive team on that journey, and then really being realistic about reporting on progress. I love it when I see large corporations own that it's a journey and it takes time. So gradual steps are okay as long as you have that North Star vision ahead of you. So the call to action this week, as a way to bridge divides across the us and them mentality that a lot of cultures, especially corporate cultures, end up in, is really applying Carol Dweck's growth mindset is a fantastic framework to base it on. And can you instill more desire for curiosity and learning versus knowing? That's one. Next, the growth versus fixed mindset is really the foundation of her work, is again a way to avoid the my way or the highway. And the concept of not yet from her, if you haven't seen her TED Talk, I highly recommend watching that as well. Actually, it's a Stanford alumni talk, look it up. But the not yet means you're not quite there yet. And so to be honest with that in this context of, yes, there's a divide, and instead of saying I agree to disagree, just say we have more work to do. And that's fine. Because that desire to resolve things immediately can really be a recipe for disaster and to not set you up for success. So apply that not yet aspect and keep working at how you can bridge the divide. Best of luck. There's no denying, globally, we are very divided. There are many divides. No matter how you look at it, we're a very divided humanity. And I want to do something about it. I'm Bobby Bakshi, and my focus is on the corporate space, especially with CEOs and leaders who can make a difference. So join me in Bridging Divides. Contact me to learn how I can help your organization to bridge divides.